SpellForce Conquest of Eo is a fun fantasy strategy game for nomads who like turn-based games for PC. This game is an unusual part of the SpellForce series and is going a new direction with some innovative features in this genre. You can expect not a role-playing real-time strategy mix, but a turn-based 4X strategy game, which immediately reminds you of genre gems like Heroes of Might and Magic, Age of Wonders or Master of Magic. In this review, I will tell you whether SpellForce Conquest of Eo with its new mix of features is fun and what you can expect. SpellForce Conquest of Eo only offers a single-player campaign, which has some replay value due to numerous starting parameters. You start a campaign by choosing one of 3 archetypes of heroes. You can choose between Alchemist, who uses nature spells and brews potions and elixirs to support his units, the Spellsmith, who casts earth spells and creates glyphs and artifacts, or go with the Necromancer, who creates undead soldiers from souls and remains. If you want to build a mage of your own, this is also possible. In the next step, you'll define the starting point of your adventure. You can choose between 5 biomes, which differ in enemies, resources, and accessibility. On the Golden Fields you'll mainly encounter goblins, bandits, and vermin. Ore deposits are not so frequent, but you can harvest plants everywhere. You won't find it easier to get started in any other place. On the other hand, things are really brutal on the Misty Coast with some sort of extra hard difficulty. Dangerous orcs and swamp monsters are wreaking havoc there. The world of Conquest of Eo is very beautiful and with a lot of love for small details. This is because the map was designed by hand and is not generated randomly. However, this lowers the replay value a bit compared to completely randomly generated maps like in Civilization, for example. Nevertheless, it makes sense and fun to try again, as it makes a noticeable difference if you have to deal with undead and orcs from the beginning, or if wolves and thieves are your biggest concern. There are a lot of randomized quests and rewards, which also change the game experience every time. Just quests, events, resources are randomly distributed in each playthrough. Sometimes you'll find a cool spell that lets you raise the undead, and other times you'll find a powerful dagger that adds fear to your attacks. In the last step, you'll finalize your personal game experience by choosing the difficulty level. There are 5 options in total, from story mode to impossible. These affect parameters such as the aggressiveness of the enemies, the strength of the enemy squads, or the AI of the units. The heart of your power is your master's tower, around which there is a kind of control zone. All mines, towers, warehouses, and other facilities within this zone provide you with the resources gold, mana, research and mastery, but also with useful bonuses, for example, for faster training of new soldiers. These control zones can be expanded over time, but sooner rather than later you'll notice that Conquest of Eo demands the life of a nomad from you. You'll then direct your base to a new place, where you'll eventually build a new control zone. Unlike in games like Heroes of Might and Magic, you don't gradually build up a huge empire here, but are always on the hunt for the next profitable place for your flying home base. Time and again, however, you'll have to bring the tower to a given place for quests. This becomes a lot of work and regularly leads to phases in which hardly any resources end up in your account. Battles are played out in hexes and are turn-based with at maximum 10 units under your control. However, there is also quite a bit to consider. Ranged fighters, for example, need to consider elevation levels, lines of sight, and ranges in order to participate effectively. Powerful flanking attacks, on the other hand, are important for melee fighters, but can be mitigated with the right equipment or certain spells. Each unit has 3 action points per turn. These are not only used for movement, attacks, items, or skills, because as a defender you can also defend yourself with counterattacks. Conversely, this also means that you can cripple opponents with attacks by whittling away their action points, which can often end in a lot of losses. In addition, there are special features like resistances, different damage types, buffs, and weakening effects. Defeats are hard to afford, for one simple reason: your troops gain experience and level up through battles. This way they learn new skills and traits that can have a big impact, and such troops are simply too valuable to lose and start from scratch. That is one reason SpellForce Eo plays sometimes little bit more like an RPG than a classic strategy game where each unit not really matters. By the way, you don't control your avatar through the fantasy world round by round, but your hired troops, summon servants and heroes or apprentices who join you over time. Like in a role-playing game, your units gain experience points and level up. After leveling up, you can always choose which of the 2 offered improvements you want to make to the newly improved fighter. These can be simple value improvements, but also new combat spells or passive bonuses. All apprentices and heroes also have armor and weapon slots, which you can use to pack appropriate pieces of equipment. You can also find magical runes in the game world or steal them from enemies, which will then improve your unit by putting them into designated slots. You can upgrade not only your units, but also your tower. Through your mastery resource, you'll add new floors to it, which will increase its control zone and allow you to lead more troops into battle. In addition, you'll unlock rooms for the tower, for which you'll then determine functions. Study rooms provide you with more research, workshops with gold and an additional crafting slot. The Crystal Garden gives you more mana every day, and thanks to the troop quarters you can build goblin units. The different types of rooms can be further improved once they are built. Really fun and innovative is the crafting system, which invites you to experiment a lot. All the items you find during your adventure end up in your inventory and are assigned to the elemental, death, life and arcane categories. When crafting, you can combine up to 4 of these items with a bowl item to earn a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 9 points from 1 or more categories. Each of the combinations represents a separate recipe that you can discover. In total you got over 100 recipes for different glyph effects, weapons, and consumable items. Conquest of Eo explains many functions directly in the game, but you have to figure out a few details on your own. The world map of Eo is extensive and nicely designed, but unlike in most 4X games, the layout is fixed. Cities and towns are always in the same place. Unfortunately, areas like diplomacy, alliances, and interesting AI counterparts are not particularly present or well implemented in this game. That's why SpellForce Conquest of Eo doesn't have what it takes to be a long-running hit, yet. Conquest of Eo is a hard game on the higher difficulty levels, where you can quickly fall behind. If you bite through these moments of frustration, however, you can have a lot of fun and also start a new attempt. The tactical battles offer enough depth, the progression of the units is motivating, and it's a nice feeling to constantly level up your tower and your own spellbook. But it is for sure a really good and fresh 4X strategy game, not only for fans of the SpellForce franchise. I enjoyed playing it, and after a few initial hurdles I was really hooked and could hardly put it down for days.